Good evening, everyone, and welcome into episode 12 of the Forge Podcast. My name is Ryan Messer, and this is the Forge Podcast brought to you by Shotgun Sports Network Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. And guys, as you can tell, we are not in Birmingham right now. We are in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, and because we covered the last regular season game of the regular season for the Birmingham Barons. And we have the first playoff game tomorrow. So we're stoked for that. We're going to be up here until Wednesday. We'll go back Wednesday, and then we'll be at the second playoff game at Regions Field on Thursday. But with that, we've got a lot to get into. We have the Birmingham last regular season game or regular season match or series with the Tennessee Smokies up here in Kodak, as well as two matches for the Birmingham Legion FC, along with some transactions from your Birmingham Bulls as well. But before we get into all of that, we want to thank you guys for listening and watching wherever it may be. We appreciate all of the support. It's really appreciated, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever you're watching your podcast, whether it's iHeart, Audible, or Spotify, or wherever it may be. But we want to thank you, and if you like what you see, just make sure you hit that like and share. Just share it with people that might not know that there is commentary for Birmingham pro sports, not just, collegiate sports. I know that there's so many podcasts out there for the collegiate athletics and all that, but this is primarily Birmingham pro sports. So we want to keep it to that because, the traditional media does not necessarily cover those sports the way they should. But we want to thank you for all of your support. And we also want to thank Blue Spring Living Water because they've been supporting us all year long and keeping us hydrated throughout the year. And they want to keep you guys hydrated as well because you can get it straight from your grocer, or you can get it delivered right to your door. So take a step toward a healthier life with Blue Spring Living Water. And this is episode 12 of the Forge Podcast. We're going to lead things off with the Birmingham Barons, who took on the Tennessee Smokies this past week up here in Kodak. Well, on Tuesday, Tennessee got things started in the bottom of the fifth with a 2-run homer, but the Barons wound up answering back with 3 of their own in the top of the sixth, with Wilfred Veras wound up singling to bring in Riku Nishida. And then DJ Gladney wound up singling to bring in both Camilletti and Wilfred Veras. Then we saw that lead last until the bottom of the 8th, where the Smokies wound up taking a 5-3 lead with a triple, off of a triple and a wild pitch. And Birmingham just couldn't get anything else going in the 9th. So the totals for that game were Tennessee with the 5 runs off of 5 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 5. For Birmingham, it was 3 runs off of 7 hits. There were 1 error, and then they stranded 6. On Wednesday, Birmingham got things started early with Mario Camilletti doubling to bring in Nishida in the first. And then Birmingham padded the lead with 3 more runs in the second, with Camilletti doubling again to bring in, this time bringing in Matthews and Nishida. And then Veras wound up singling to bring in Camilletti. In the third, Terrell Tatum wound up doubling to bring in Turner. And then Barons added 3 more there in the fourth, with Nick Podkul doubling to bring in Mario Camilletti. And then a wild pitch brought in Varys. And then Michael Turner brought in Nick Podkul off of a sac fly. Tennessee finally got on the board in the bottom of the fourth with 2 runs scored off of a fielding error by Matt Hogan. And then the Barons wound up scoring 5 more in the top of the seventh, with Matthews bringing in Tatum. Nishida wound up grounding into second to bring in Weston Eberle. And then Varys wound up doubling to bring in Nishida. And then Turner doubled to bring in Camilletti and Varys. Eberle put the final nail in the coffin for this game by singling to bring in Varys in the ninth. The totals for this game were Tennessee with 2 runs off of 5 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 5. Barons had the 14 runs off of 18 hits, guys. There was 1 error, and they stranded 12. They stranded 12 guys, but they still got 14 runs. That's insane. On Thursday, Tennessee got things started off early with a 3-run homer in the top of the first, and then Tennessee added to the lead in the bottom of the fourth with 2 runs off of a triple and a wild pitch. It was just a rough night for Tyler Schweitzer as he wound up giving up 5 runs. He did have 8 strikeouts, but he wound up walking 4 in his 5 innings on the mound. So the Barons did wound up scrounging up 2 runs in the top of the 6th, with Varys bringing in Matthews off of a single, and then Gladney wound up bringing in Nishida off of a sac fly. But they didn't get enough to bring in to get the comeback, as the totals for this game were Tennessee with the 5 runs off of 3 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 3. Birmingham had the 2 runs off of 4 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 5. On Friday, Birmingham wound up getting things started early with Gladney bringing in Nishida off of a sac fly in the first. And then the Barons wound up coming back in the third with a Turner doubling, bringing in Camilletti, Gladney, and Nick Podkul. Tennessee tried to make the comeback, but with a 2-run homer in the 7th, but and a single run in the top of the 9th, but that wasn't enough to stay the Barons, as the totals for this game were Tennessee with the 3 runs off of 6 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 7. Birmingham had 4 runs off of 6 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 11. On Saturday, Tennessee scored the game's only runs, with 1 in the 4th and then 1 in the 5th. And Birmingham just couldn't get any runs going. So the Smokies got the shutout there. And the totals for that game were Birmingham with the 0 runs off of 4 hits. This was the only series where Tennessee hit Birmingham. There were no errors, and they stranded 8. Tennessee had 2 runs off of 11 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 11. So, yeah, this is the only game where Tennessee out-hit Birmingham. There. On yesterday, this is the last game of the regular season, and as you can see here, the guys, they were wrapped around the block pretty much trying to get into this game. They were lined up for hours before the game because this is not only the last regular season game, but it was the last regular season game in that stadium for this Tennessee Smokies team, as they next season they will be moving to Knoxville. It will be moving from Kodak to Knoxville next season. Uh, so it is in down. The new stadium is in downtown Knoxville, but the game was packed. Like I said, the people were lined up for hours before the gates even opened. But for the game, Barons got things started early with DJ Gladney hitting a two-run homer, bringing in Varys there in the first inning. And then DJ did it again in the top of the third with a solo shot in the third there. And then Tatum hit a single in the seventh to bring in Turner. And then Turner singled in the eighth to bring in Jason Matthews. It was just a great shutout game to close out the regular season. Great outings for both Garrett Sheenley and Chase Blamel. Just a great game. We need to see those guys probably Thursday night. I know that it's going to be too early for them to play tomorrow night. But I would love to see Garrett Sheenley come out because he's been really good since lately. So totals for this game were Tennessee with the no runs off of 3 hits. There was 1 error and they stranded 6. For Birmingham, it was 5 runs off of 14 hits, guys. There were no errors and they stranded 12. But as you can see, we're still here in the Smokies, and we'll be here covering the first playoff game tomorrow in Kodak. But the Barons have been getting hits. They just have to get them in. They only had 1 game last series where they got out hit, and pitching will be crucial in these playoffs. So as of this recording, Sergio still hasn't made the call on who's going to be starting tomorrow night. So we'll have to see. If we see somebody struggling, we got to be quick to pull them out within the minimum or after the minimum allotment. But we'll have to see how it goes tomorrow. On Thursday, we did find this out today. The Barons will be partnering with the Negro League Museum in unveiling a new baseball in Birmingham exhibit at Regents Field. They will have representatives from the Negro League Museum as well as the city of Birmingham on hand to reveal this new exhibit. So we're stoked to see that exhibit. We'll be there on hand to cover that as well. It's going to be great to see that. I know there's there's already some exhibits around Protective Stadium there, but we're stoked to see this new exhibit there. Switching things over to the Birmingham Legion, where there was a transaction that occurred this past week, and on Tuesday, I believe, the Legion wound up signing forward Darwin Matthias. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, to the team. We're stoked to have him. So I know we really kind of short in that position there. But on Wednesday, we saw the Legion take on the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Birmingham started things off very aggressively for than usual. And then Pino was actually wound up getting shown a yellow card in the 32nd minute, but he also wound up finding the back of the net in the 37th minute. So great to see that. And then kept that lead until halftime. And then in the 86th minute, we saw Kobe taking the ball from around midfield, then taking it deep and passed it off to Dawson McCarthy, who wound up passing it right back to him. And then Kobe wound up getting a shot and found the back of the goal there. So, but So we're very defensive game, and a great see how well they did in that game with the 2-1, 2-0 shutout there. On great defensive game as well, because Matt Van Okel had a really great game, a bunch of saves there for him. Um, on Saturday, we wound up facing Loudon uh, FC, yeah, Loudon United FC, and Birmingham started off early with a amazing goal in the 15th minute. Uh, with Alex wound up uh, from behind the midfield line finding that goal. I was like, that's insane. And then Birmingham carried that lead until halftime. And then Loudon wound up tying it up with a goal in the 56th minute. And then Deba in Nwigbo wound up retaking the lead from Loudon uh, in the 63rd minute with his first goal of the regular season. And then Loudon wound up tying it back up in the 69th minute, but then they wound up scoring two more, one in the 79th minute and then one in the 90th. Birmingham shot great. It's just they just couldn't keep the possession in our zone, and that's where we've been struggling all season long. So we've just gotta. I know Coach Soane's probably way ahead of us on that, but we've got to keep pushing them to and practicing maintaining possession and keeping it in the zone. But as it stands right now, we are 11, 12, and 5. We're sixth in the USL Championship Eastern Conference, and still in playoff contention. Still, I believe, three positions ahead in that. And then Legion will take on Miami FC this Sunday at 4 p.m. at Protective Stadium. So we're stoked for that. We will be there to cover that game as well. Switching things over to the Birmingham Bulls, where we had a few transactions occur this past week, where on Friday we saw the Bulls sign defenseman Troy Murray, and then also forward Troy Koch. And then on Sunday we saw the Bulls sign forward Carson Andrelli. And so we're stoked to see those guys. We can't wait for camp to get started. As soon as we find out any additional details about camp, we will bring those to you, straight to you. So we're going to try to get some footage from camp as well. So as well as the squadron camp as soon as that gets started. In closing, we're trying to stay on top of all things Birmingham sports and make sure you have the latest. We'll be here in Tennessee covering tomorrow's playoff game along with, and then we'll come back and cover Thursday's game and then Fridays if needed. So, but we'll also be here, be at Sunday's Birmingham Legion game. And then we're trying to stay on top of all things Birmingham Pro Sports and all the transactions from the Birmingham Stallions, the Squadron, and the Bulls as they prepare for their upcoming seasons. But as for me, from the Great Smoky Mountains, good night, and I will see you back in Birmingham next week. Good night.